Oh, like Jaime, like in Deus Ex? Jaime Reyes? Jaime. Jaime Marcelo. Got it. Okay, we'll try and say that correctly from now on. If it is your first time in Real Talk, we are talking about demo reels. We get 2 submissions every week, and myself and Matt Martinson in the chat help me out. Sometimes on Skype too. We just evaluate and constructively criticize demo reels and portfolios and websites and such in the effort of increasing the various individuals' chances of getting hired somewhere, whether that's at a big studio or with a small dev team or just working as a kind of gun for hire independent contractor or whatever they want to be doing. So we look at it in terms of this criteria down here in the corner. We're looking for a presentation that includes everything they present online. That's the website. That's not just sound, but also formatting and layout of the website, general flow. Like Matt often brings up in the chat, he brings up the idea of treating your website and your reel like guiding a narrative. So when someone arrives on your page, you should have a relatively good idea of what they're going to be doing when they get there and how they're going to be behaving and how they'll how your reel will hit them and what that will cause them to do. Whether it'll cause them to skip through it, or if they go somewhere on your page they're kind of confused, or if they get there in the first 10 seconds they're not totally sure on what they should be looking at. You should be able to say, like, look at this thing right now, it's all you need to look at. And then if they decide they want to look at more things, then they can choose from that point forwards. But you shouldn't lose control of that first few minutes on the page, first 10 seconds especially. And as far as material selection, we're looking at the various things in your portfolio and in your reel and what that says about you and your ambitions and your skill sets. And it's very common that we get reels on Real Talk that are underrepresenting people's talents. And we try to let you know how you can maybe shift things around to better convey, to better communicate what you have to offer. For content quality, we're looking at whether things are at the industry standard of awesome, and if they are not, we'll try and let you know how you can improve some things. And distinction is whether or not you're standing out at all, and you gotta stand out. You kind of have to in this industry, otherwise you will not ever get work, or you'll get very little work and just struggle the entire time. So you gotta stand out in some way so that you stay in the back of someone's mind, so when that job comes up, they think, oh, I gotta hire some sound now, who do I go to? And like, why go to Craigslist if they just know a guy? And they think of, and they're like, oh, I was on that girl's page last week and she was amazing, so let's go hire her, or let's go hire this guy, or whatever, right? It's very, very important to kind of have some kind of hook into that person visiting your page, you know? So, without further ado, shall we? Let's look at Jaime Marcelo. I'll turn off Smiletron for a second. Man, I love this album. This EP is so good. Wonderful. Okay. Alright, so we generally look through the page first, so we'll look through this top guy. We have main page, links to the main page, of course. We've got home, and I'll say as well, hey Matt, thank you very much for chilling out, man. I know you're super busy, and as am I. I'll be working after this for sure. But we'll knock out Real Talk really fast, and we'll carry on with our busy schedules. So home, easy enough. Scroll down, we got very clear portfolio first, although not a video. We'll see what happens when we go here. This is my portfolio, starting with sound design. This is probably redundant. Or you could just do like sound design, period. I just clicked your portfolio either by here or by this main link here. So it's going to be very obvious that I'm on your portfolio, but I'm always a big fan of kind of removing things that you don't need, just like trimming fat down. So minimizing how much text there is to look at, just be very clear and concise with everything. It's perhaps a preferential thing, but I think it's worth considering. So sound design reel, we have 119. Wonderful. Matt, only have to get a game ready for GDC. I gotta get a few ready for GDC. Jeez. Finish mixing an album. Go back to the dentist. Back to the dentist. And okay, I think that's it. Pack. Yeah. I gotta go to the bank too. Get some cash. Okay, this is my portfolio. Sound design. We have 119. Not a bad length. I can see that and be like, all right, it's 1 minute and a bit. That's fine. Sound redesign reel. Oh, but there's 2. Oh, okay. Well, now we're into 2-minute territory. So maybe that's worth making this as one video instead, but we'll carry on. Next up, music audio reels. Music audio. You can really kill off the word audio, I guess. Unless there's like I don't know. This seems like a strange addition. Just music reels is fine. I assume, unless I'll listen to this and see if it's something weird. We're into 5, 6, 3, well 4 I guess, rounding up, and 6 here. So like 16 minutes of music to go through, and SoundCloud only. That's not the best way to show your music, but we'll get into that shortly. For projects, we have film and video game. So film projects. Recent, yeah, so Matt, his ... SoundCloud ... is death. He will always say, there it is, death. Yeah, we'll tell you what's up with that, Jaime, as far as what you could maybe do to present music in a better capacity. SoundCloud isn't great. It's just not very visually engaging, and people, it's the thing is, your SoundCloud will look the same as everybody else's SoundCloud, and it's when it's like many minutes to listen through, people don't have that kind of time usually, or they are not willing to offer that kind of time unless they already have a reason to. And that's kind of what that whole thing, we'll get back to it in more detail in a second, but just in general, the whole 10-second test of, do you want, or rather, your goal should be with your website, your whatever you give them, a portfolio or a reel or website or whatever, your goal should be that in the first 10 seconds of them being there, they should want to know more and want to listen to more. So if it's real, in the first 10 seconds, you should be giving them a reason to stick around. And with music, well, if you have just like SoundCloud links, that 10-second test is very difficult to pass almost always. So it's usually better to have like a visual context put in there as well. But we'll go to that in a second here. So as far as the rest of the page goes, film stuff, great. Game stuff, current and recent video game projects. Pandagon, A Star Falls. All right. I like this a lot, by the way. The kind of hover and see more information. It's really clean. I like that a lot. Down Chimney Sim, 20x7. Okay, sweet. Venturi, Outpost. Okay, cool. And credits. Can I click this? I can't click this. See, the mouse changes to a click, and I can't. But it's, maybe that's worth. It's fine. It's probably clear enough. Composer, sound designer. Video games. So you have credits. This is great. You have worked on things. So we've got a game jam here. We've got iOS. That's great. Star-Crossed. Another game jam. Ludum isometric item collecting browser game. Music and sound design. See, one thing I would say here is that by glancing at this, I can't easily see if things shipped. I need to look really closely. So it might be worth having like a heading or something like Devader and then Steam release, like on Steam, like like Steam in development, and then next to it like a Star Falls. This I have no idea if it's like a fun project or if it's shipped or if it's anything. I probably could learn if I like had the time to Google it and look into it deeper and stuff. I could learn what this thing is, but I think it's worth just having a very quick kind of breakdown of what these things are and if you shipped the game or not. Because if you shipped games, it's massively better than if you did games on like as a passion project or like for a game jam. Game jams are really good because it shows you take initiative and you have an interest in this craft beyond just like staying at home and writing music or being in school and writing music because you had to because a class required it. So game jams are very good for that, to indicate passion. And passion is really, really, really important and very, very good to indicate. But shipping things is kind of that assumed next step that you already showed that passion and somebody trusted in you to do a project and you did the project and that project is now out there in the world. That's extremely good to show. So having that kind of thing right next to it immediately is going to be probably a better choice. And Mosaic Music. Question about music reels. Should they adhere to the 1 minute length? If so, does this mean that each selection should have more time dedicated to it? Or should one still try to have 6 to 7 titles in the 1 minute time frame? Yeah, so this is a common question, and it's also a common point of like contention. People debate over this a lot. A debate happened in the Game Audio Slack like this week over this whole concept. So basically, the whole rule of like 1 minute is a very like hard guideline, okay? I think in general, for the vast majority of people who need reels, it means that they're not at a point in their career where they don't need one. Like they do need a reel because they're still early on, right? Like for example, Power Up Audio does not have a demo reel right now, but we have a list of games we've worked on and a general notoriety and like just recognition in the industry. So we can kind of get away with not having a reel, but and many other like audio directors and such, they can just point at their repertoire, their portfolio, be like, yeah, I worked on like Mass Effect 3, and they're like, okay, cool, thanks, you're hired. They have that. Whereas if you have someone who is starting out, they of course need to prove themselves, and a reel is how you do that. So all that said, if we had someone who was like audio director on Mass Effect 3 and they made a 10-minute reel, it'd probably be amazing. Like it'd probably be super interesting and really great to listen to. And in fact, there was one reel that was Roland, what was his name? Roland Smith, is that right? Something like that. I had the link to me. I can't find it now. But basically, it was the reel that got him hired at Valve. And it's like a 10-minute reel, but it's super, super interesting. And it's like, it's basically a talk on all the Roland Shaw. Thank you, Bassmaster Flex. Roland Shaw. So Roland Shaw's reel is like 10 minutes, and it's like a comprehensive breakdown, and it's presented brilliantly, and it's effectively like an audio talk on all the sound in Alice. So that's like super interesting, but it's only interesting because he already has that pedigree. If you have 1 minute as a up and coming sound designer and that's all you get, then like that's amazing. So if the general idea is that if you're starting out and you're at a point in your career where you need a reel, you probably don't need more than a minute to express all you have to offer. And if you do need more than a minute, I would question that. So it's kind of a combination of things. It's you probably don't need it, and you probably shouldn't be requesting people's time more than that. So I'll read what Matt said here. He says, I still say keep it short. You want to keep people's attention. You don't want to lose someone's attention. Of course not. And losing someone's attention can happen very, very easily, especially if they have like a stack of resumes to go through, right? Like to always assume you are not the only person on the consideration, the list of consideration, right? So he says, I get antsy with stuff longer than a minute. I want to be won over quickly. If you do win me over quickly, I'll want to watch more things. So that first minute's about hooking people in. It's not about showing everything you have to offer, because of course I'm not going to sit here and pretend that like every good piece of music can be expressed under a minute. Of course not. I have like post-rock tracks and like minimal techno tracks that are 10 minutes long, and they're like masterpieces. And of course I wouldn't be like, oh, listen to this 1 minute or like this 10 seconds of the piece and you'll get all you need to hear. The point is to express that you got chops. You can do music in a variety of styles, or very well in one style, or whatever you want to express. You express that in the minute, and then like Matt says, if at that point someone like me or someone like an audio director or someone like a indie developer or small studio head or whatever is looking at your stuff and decides, you know what, this is pretty good, I'm going to keep listening. Slipcell Carson says it's your Tinder profile for work. That is not the worst analogy. That's actually a pretty solid analogy. Yeah, the blind date email, the first date, exactly. So first the Tinder profile, and then your other contents like your first date. Yes, exactly. Exactly. And then your actual work is like, 6 months into the date, or into dating this girl. All right, so the Tinder profile thing, keep it short, get attention, and then move on, okay? So sorry about ranting for a while, but it's a very worthwhile question to address. It's kind of a very, like I said, it's a point of contention, right? All right, so carrying on, video games, we got this. So I mentioned make it very clear if things shipped or not, and how you do that to say like Steam, because if it says Steam, I assume it shipped. And if it says, Game Jam or something, then I'll know right away it's a Game Jam game. So it's just very, at a glance, easy to see. Carrying on, film and TV, we're not too concerned about that, but cool, you're doing a bunch of things. News. A performer, too, producer, neat. How new is news? August 5th, 2016. Dude, no. Jaime. This is really dangerous, this kind of thing. And it's a kind of a joke, because we always, take bets on like how how new is news, or how recent the last post, or the last blog post, or whatever update. And they're really commonly not recent. And the thing is, if they are recent, it's really, really cool because it shows that you're active and interested. But if it isn't recent, it's like a very high risk reward thing, starting a blog. I mean, someone like Barney Oram had a really cool one. It's like it was 100 days of recording, and he had like consistent updates as far as things he's recording. And that kind of thing is really, really indicative of passion and initiative and all these things that are very hireable, right? But this, while it may be interesting, the date just makes me wonder what you've been doing. And the thing is, what you've been doing might be like obvious on your portfolio page and stuff, but people sometimes might draw conclusions from this. And that goes back to the whole thing, like losing control of the narrative of someone on your page, right? So like ditch it, or maybe just ditch the date. Like the date might be worth just getting rid of. If you love this article or love your news piece or whatever, then just get rid of the dates and like reformat it so it's like a number of things people can read through if they're interested. But this stuff is like, man, that's old. It's too old. All right, carrying on. Although it's not the worst. We've seen worse. We've seen like years old blog posts. This is only maybe, it's less than a year, so it's not too bad, but it's not great. Okay, so I'm a performer, composer, sound designer, and multi-instrumentalist living in Brooklyn, New York. I live and breathe through music and sound. Great. I'm not going to read all of this. It's a lot of text. But skimming, Washington, New York from high school, hardcore punk to pop rock bands. Cool. All right, awesome. And some audio gear nerd photos. Excellent. It's always good to show. Production, setup, and software. So software, it's a common thing that we generally don't care as hirers. I don't really care what you use. And most people don't care. I know Matt doesn't care at all about what your gear is. Gear is important if I'm hiring you at a distance to record some voiceover or something in your studio, but it's just not that interesting. It's just a waste of space. If they want to know what your gear is, they'll ask you. It's cool that you know that you like use that you have RX5, but even putting RX5 here, like I have no idea how good you are at using RX5. Like I have RX4, I think is what I have right now. Yeah, 4 right now, and I'm like, I would say I'm pretty damn good at using RX4 because I've used it for like years and for a variety of applications, right? But like, if I told someone I have RX4, it's like not really, it doesn't tell them anything. So you can probably get rid of all this shit. It's not really important. Carrying on. Contact. Waves Gold though. Yeah, Waves Gold, pretty good. All right, so music rates primarily available. So film, video, and engine production, violin, guitar session. That's cool too. Nice. Music rates vary between hour rate, per minute music rate, or per track, depending on the project. For sound design rates, this kind of thing, like it's describing how you do business on your site is also kind of a waste of time. If people are interested, they'll inquire, and at that point, you can tell them how you operate. It's just a waste. It's just like more text. You can cut it down. And the thing is, this, as it says, it will vary between these things depending on the project. So the fact that it depends is like, it's conveying no information. It's like, because they have no idea. Like, they're like, oh, well, I have this project, but they don't know what that means for the depending on part, you know? So you can get rid of that. Just get rid of all this stuff. Just say, this is like, okay, fine. That's okay, great. Good to say. I'm happy to work with you for whatever reason, at whatever budget. But like, yeah, kill this stuff off. It's not relevant. So let's go back to your homepage, yeah? I've seen Tony. I've seen Kevin use RX mostly bashing on Reels' outlying frequencies. Yes, I do that sometimes. True, it is true. Okay. Yeah, Kid Coexist said, unless you write your own software, skip it. Yeah, true. Okay, so back to the front page. So this is, as we said before, it might be worth having your video like here instead, but one click isn't the worst thing. Projects, film projects about. Like, all this stuff is kind of up here already, you know? This seems like a waste of space. It's like, just a different presentation. I guess arguably more attractive presentation of this stuff, but in terms of like tightening up the narrative and the presentation, you might want to just make this your front page, the portfolio. And then if you want to see, and then like Matt says, if he cares after having watched your portfolio, if you have hooked someone in, then they will explore the rest of your pages. You don't need to have like a fancy presentation and stuff. All right, so portfolio, we click that and we end up on the this is my portfolio page. So we'll watch this one first and we'll see where that gets us, okay? Because this is what somebody would do. They would click portfolio and see if I'm zoomed in a bit, so I'm here, but still the very top thing is what I assume as someone blind landing on your page, I assume you want me to watch this one. So I'm gonna watch this one, okay? So let's do this. Oh, and full volume too. Is there sound? Uh-oh. Silent opening? Okay.
I'm gonna ride and sing the blues.
Thanks, man. Okay, and hey, Paul, good to see you, pal. Some dev played down well. Yes, I was thinking the same thing. Okay, so let's talk about these various things, the criteria here in terms of the reel, as this is our focus. And first, let's just skip through this one. So this is the thing. This is what someone would do. This is what I would do. I would maybe watch the whole thing. I was considering skipping through, but the thing is, I'll tell you what my mindset was. So I was considering skipping through at about right here. Where was I? Yeah, right about here. I was considering. No, a little ahead. Like about here, I was gonna skip through and just see how much longer this went. But then I reconsidered because I knew it was short. Like I knew it was 119, and that's kind of. It's funny because I wasn't like, how can I create like a narrative of what I was thinking so I can tell the audience? Like that wasn't what I was thinking. That was just like a third-person observation of how I was approaching this reel. So that's probably worth noting, is that if it's shorter, I'm more willing to watch it if it's not holding my attention as much. But if, for example, if we were here and I knew this reel was like 4 minutes long, I would for sure be skipping through it. So length is like, it's on the brink of too long, but it's all right. So let's talk about presentation first, yeah? Oh, sorry, I was gonna watch this first, so let's skip through. Let's see.
In position.
Okay. It's all the same? Okay, cool. So it's all the same thing. That's fine. And then music, real stuff, just music only, right? Cool. So, oh, and by the way, that's how people listen to SoundCloud too. They just like click to a transient and then click somewhere else. Yeah. That listening right there was very typical of what you might get out of SoundCloud by having on your page, but especially for a long piece. Okay, let's talk about this reel and presentation. So first off, I would probably marry these two things into one reel because you want me to look at both of them. I mean, I assume you want me to look at both of them because they're both here, right? And potentially this also. I would first recommend. I'll say first too. So Matt says I probably would have checked out on the Santa clip. There you go. So there you go. Very very similar to kind of my impression. All right, this page actually could probably be kind of reformatted into two videos. One of them being a sound design reel, and one of them being a music reel. So for your sound design reel, I would take this stuff and put it all in the... Actually, no, let me rephrase that. This would be your reel, your music and sound reel on your front page. So your home would have, like, these two videos, and that's it. Just, like, music and sound, and the top one being what you want to hear first, right? But two videos front page, minute each, is, like, pretty good. And then, if I then care, and I want to know more about this, this like, Space Hulk redesign, or see all of it, then I can go to Portfolio and see a breakdown of the various things you've worked on. And I can look at it in detail, right? But until then, having the whole thing like this, like one piece per minute, is not the most effective use or approach. Having it here in its full glory is definitely a good choice, but not as like a reel. Because right now it's just one piece, as opposed to like multiple things showing your various skill sets and your background. So if you have the single sound design reel of these, like the things in this video currently, and then plus this also somewhere in there as a redesign piece, and just express it the same way you did here with these titles, which are very good, by the way. These titles it would just say like Space Hulk sound redesign. Just say that, and then it's very clear that you didn't work on it, and it's okay. So, okay, let's talk about just general presentation for a second. So let's assume for a second that Space Hulk thing is like at the end of this video, okay? And it's like 2 minutes long, because that's basically what your reel is right now. It's like a 2 minute long 2-video reel. So get that down to 1 minute for all that stuff, or a bit more. Like 119 is kind of pushing it, but if you can aim for 1, then I challenge you to go for it. This opening title is good, although this could be moved up because of the whole like safe limits, or I don't recall what it's called. There's like a safe threshold of where you should put things in a video to accommodate for things like this. And this is currently covering up some of this stuff, so you can go poof, just move it up a bit, and you're problem solved. You're good to go. But if you recall, when I pressed play, I was like, is there sound? It's a sound design reel. It's pretty typical to have sound from the first moment. And in fact, let's bring up one of my recent favorites, shall we? Yep, you know who I'm talking about. Damian Shepard. Let's press play. It's great. Right away, it's like, I do sound. I was excited to fill this space of sound. It's really, really good. And it's kind of a cool moment to just to be able to make something cool and creative in the first moments of pressing play and get those hooks in early, you know? We'll carry on. We won't talk about the material just yet. We'll talk about just the presentation. So the fade in was fine. The crossfades, you could probably afford to like tighten up the crossfades a bit because you're just going to silence and then back up again. Yeah, so Matt says, don't make someone question if they've got their stuff turned up or not. Yeah, just start out with some sound, but build into it. Don't go like, because you don't know how loud their knobs are cranked at the moment. All right, so crossfade, it kind of goes to silence. It isn't always, though. It's like, yeah, it's like mostly out and then back in again. You can probably pull it in a bit. It's a small detail. We'll carry on. It's good that you're showing like the name of the thing you did and what it is. However, you should probably put, just like on your credits page, put if it shipped. So if this is, for example, on Steam, like just put Steam right here, like in like hyphen Steam or parentheses Steam or something, because that's much. Assume they will look at nothing else except this reel. This reel should say everything. We'll get back to the nature of the things we're looking at in a second, but Also, the music and sound thing is a bit tricky. If you have sound and music in one reel, it's no longer really a sound design reel. It's more like a show reel, which is okay. But when you're looking to show your sound design and music separately, in terms of like, I'm good at sound, I like sound, and I'm good at music, I like music, then I would recommend killing off music if you can. Yeah. So I wish I had this game without music. Game jam game, only build I've got. Well, you could resync everything. That's always an option. If you have the sounds, you could just like look at this video and just rebuild it. You know, it's not. It wouldn't take that long. It'd take maybe like an hour. Just it'd be done. You have a video that is a representation of what the game sounds like, but is no music. And like I wouldn't care. I saw it. If I saw it, it's like this is the game that I worked on. This is what it sounds like with no music. That's what you're telling me, and it's not dishonest, right? So, carrying on, voiced Santa character and various enemies, processed to retro aesthetic. This kind of thing is like, I can draw those kind of conclusions. I assume that you voiced Santa because why would you like go to freesound.org to get a Santa voice? It's totally fine. And various enemies, like if you say sound design, I assume that kind of includes voice and stuff, you know. Excuse me. So the reason I bring that up is because this is like a lot of text to read, and the moment you bring my eyes down here to be like, hey, read all this text, it becomes a situation where I'm focusing here rather than on the reel that you want me to watch and listen to, you know? So having it very brief is a better choice, usually. So carry on. And again, the whole fade to black and then back in. Just -0, sound design. Cool. Again, with both -0 and with his Pentagons to his title, I don't really know what these are. So again, do the whole Steam thing. Like I have no idea what this is. If it's like film or animation or like a theater project, like it could be a variety of things. If I go in completely blind and have no idea what I'm looking at, right? All right, so this is cool. Fmod Unity is awesome, and really, I'd put this earlier in the reel because this is like way more attractive to somebody rolling in than a random kind of abstract clip of something they don't really understand. It's like saying, "Here's a game. Here's a gameplay. I know right away this is a game, and I can see it's Unity because of this stuff." And you say Fmod Unity, great. It's pretty cool. We'll carry on. And the last part is that it? And then Harlem. Sound design of intro and outro sequence for documentary series. So this is now a film thing, right? And the thing is, this clip, it doesn't really tell me anything. Like the sound design you did. Like, did you do the buzzing sound, I guess? Right, so there isn't a lot of sound design there, so if you just killed this off and put in your Space Hulk redesign, then that would be probably a better choice. So Matt's saying he'd kill off the titles entirely. Yeah, I'm kind of tempted to say the same. We've seen reels where there's like abstract sound design to sort of like freestyle, design something cool that sounds neat, and that's cool, and it can be interesting if it's like really, really out there and kind of creative, and it can be powerful and effective. But when you have better things to look at, like shipped titles, then it's almost better to like only put it in if it's like really, really mind blowing. And this kind of thing, it's like it's okay, but like it's mostly just like a reverb tail out, you know? It's like and some reverb. There's not that much going on, you know? However, this is probably paid for, so that's also a thing. Like if Pentagon is a studio that paid you for this thing, then that's also maybe worth considering. It's just like, yeah, what Matt's saying is focus on the meat. So I'll leave it up to you. If you think this is worth putting in because it's representative of your career arc or something, then maybe it's worth it. I'd kill off Harlem though. Get rid of Harlem. Okay, let's talk about material selection. Yeah, we'll slam through. Been talking a lot about the whole presentation in general, but material selection. So the first thing we've got is this studio title. It's kind of like we just talked about that. It's not the best. I wouldn't start with it. That's for sure. This is great. This is cool to show. It's unique. It's got the kind of cool retro music thing going on, though I don't know if music's the best choice to have in this reel, but it is cool as far as like being very different than the previous thing we just saw, and that shows versatility and interest in a variety of different types of sound design, which is often very hireable. But this, if you do know sound design, if you do have it as only sound design rather, then this is now just footsteps for a bit, you know? So I'd probably kill this opening off just for saving time and cut straight to this. All right. That's pretty cute too. Ho ho ho, I laughed at that internally. The big crushed ho ho ho. -0 title. Again, like there's not much happening here. I'm gonna try and find something here that's really, really cool. Oh, I can't find it now. Anyways, this is like really awesome to have, and it's your strongest piece, so put it earlier on. And get rid of this. So, and then Space Hulk, so put Space Hulk at the end too, or somewhere in there. You could do something like really meaty piece, like your Fmod Unity project, and then like a title. And then meaty piece, and then a title, and then meaty piece again. Because that flow is a bit better than like, here is some small things that you don't understand because you don't know what this is. It's more like, here's something I put a lot of work into, here's something cool that I'm like proud of, and that's fine. And then here's something big again. It's probably a better choice. And as far as your other projects and stuff, I'm curious if there's anything here that you didn't put in your reel for any reason. So, A Star Falls, this game is currently in development, and I guess you can't put it in your reel yet, hey? That's why it's not there, I assume. And then Venturi is that sci-fi thing. Outpost is a co-op. Oh, what's happening here? This is kind of weird. Is it due to zooming? No, it's just strange. Is a co-op tower defense game where up to 8 players team up to strategically build a system of defenses in order to stop advancing forces. Also in development. Okay, cool. So I assume these two you probably can't show yet due to being under wraps. But that's cool to have them here in your projects too. Okay, so let's talk about content quality. Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot I want to say about this, but I'm sure Matt has some ideas too. I saw Matt mention in the chat that there's some harshness, and I'm fully in agreement with that. Tony joked earlier that I bust out Isotope RX to nag on people for their harsh outlying frequencies, but. This opening's nice, and your opening also establishes like the volume of the reel. Keep that in mind, because you kind of got to treat your reel like a mastered piece, the whole thing from start to finish. So if one piece is like way louder, or just louder, not only in terms of like peak, but like RMS, also it's just if the loudness is more in general, then you're kind of the listener can't trust you. You know, that's, if that makes sense. You say right here, the reel is this loud. And then we're to this. And this is like arguably much harsher. Especially here. Like starting with a bit like, wah! It's a little bit bold. Because that voice is like, it's pretty harsh. Pretty hard in the ears. It's a lot of quite loud, and I bring this up a lot, but the whole like Fletcher-Munson curve thing and how our ears are very attuned, like human ears in general are very good at processing high frequencies. So when you have in your games, they tend to be interpreted as much louder, even though they are the same volume like mathematically. So here you can turn that kind of stuff way down, and it's still gonna punch through the mix, and it's still gonna hit the person's ears hard enough to be acknowledged and understood in the game without being quite as offensive, you know? 'Cause it's pretty loud right now. And for your music's like hard left and right. There's no music in the center, right? Which is kind of a cool mixing choice because you have all this space in the panorama in the center to fill out with sound design. So I like the idea of this central kind of down chimney being like, here's the sound, it's right in front of you, and then like all music's like poof, over here, bookending it all in. But it's also the square waves thing, yeah. All the square waves makes my ears sad. Yeah, it's you gotta be careful with all that. Yeah, the bass and like the main melody are in the middle, and that's it. Ho ho ho, that's cool. Keep that. And again, that's fine. Just like it's not that interesting, but it's kind of cool to have as a little jump into the next part. This is much quieter, way quieter than Down Chimney. And it may, if your game just is that quiet, it might be worth just throwing like a compressor on it in your audio track for the whole video and just turn it up a bit. Or turn other things down, you know? Just to have things a little more evened out. Yeah, like the gunfire is like louder, I guess. I don't know. Maybe it's fine. Yeah, it might be fine with the stuff that happens later on. Yeah, so this kind of thing, there isn't like a lot happening in this shot. There's this kind of building thing over a while. But, and there's some gunshots and stuff. I guess it's like, it's pretty good as a standalone clip. But I feel like you could show more things happening. Yeah, I think my problem with it is that there's things happening audio-wise, but just visually, there's not much happening. So it's kind of like, it's a bit snoozy, you know? And maybe that's just a preferential thing, just a personal, subjective opinion. But I couldn't figure out like why I felt so like drowsy in this clip, and I think it's just because you're just sort of drifting around, like not doing anything. So I understand you're trying to show this thing, so maybe it's hard to show that. Matt says it feels long for the amount of stuff shown. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like you're doing anything. And it's, in general, I've found the reels that are more interesting are the ones that treat it kind of like a performance. You know, it's a bit of a detail, I suppose, but I definitely am feeling it's a bit kind of tired. But anyways, there's more sound than is implied by the visuals. Yeah, so like right here, there's like, but it's over here, I guess. Wow. And the bomb. That bomb. Be careful with reverb, because reverb often just tells you it's in a space, like in a room, and that bong's reverb sounds like it's in a room, and we're in space. So it's a bit of a challenge sometimes to have a reverb that sounds more like it's just filling up the sound and making it more interesting, rather than it's like giving the sound dimension, like it's in a warehouse or it's in a bathroom or whatever, right? But the first time I heard that sound, I was like, dong, and I thought, oh, reverb, yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. I think the mix could use some love. Like, just like back into the harshness thing. That it's like, hey, there's a big sound happening. It's kind of all we're listening to right now, rather than kind of controlling the or dictating the mix based on what's most relevant to the player at that moment. The thing happening off screen is important to have in the mix, certainly, but not like the loudest thing. So carry on. Yeah, and this electricity could probably be a bit more fleshed out. Like, this thing is assumably huge, because you're a ship, right? This is pretty large. And it's just like, it's all very up high only, nothing else. It's like, or something like that, or some more, just more balls into the sound. and tighter synced. I don't know how the sync is working like implementation wise, but it felt like it was just very loose on the design. Like in general, it's all kind of just becomes muddy when you have like really hard reverb and this sort of looser design. I would challenge you to just tighten up a lot of your design in terms of like choosing a frequency range, like frequency focus for things. Like fill out the frequency as they should be as to indicate like size and significance and so forth. But like choose a frequency range to focus on for various parts, and then in a whole mix, those things will kind of cooperate nicely together, rather than like, which is a very common kind of. It's not so much in this piece, but it is common in kind of early career sound design. Is they'll just like throw reverb on everything. It's like, oh, it's so saucy, it's so nice and smooth. But what happens is you just lose contour and you just introduce a lot of mud. So this is I think you just tighten up sound on like that. Here, watch this last bit one more time. Yeah, just be tighter. And we'll skip this. And I'll really quickly jump through this one. We're going pretty long in this because of the whole rant about music real lengths, but we'll carry on. Like this kind of gets back to what I was saying before. It's a small detail, but that doesn't need to be that loud. Because it's high frequency and our ears hear it very easily. You can pull this back like 10 dB, it'll be fine still, you know? And that first chirp is like, it's like pretty harsh. Yeah, it's kind of ear stabby.
In position.
This ambient rumble is pretty crazy. Yeah, my ears are exhausted, dude. From the entire time is pretty, just very, very, overwhelming is the word. I'd pull that back a bit. Good to have ambient sound and kind of fill out your space, but it's a little bunch. Matt says, "Where is this sword?" Let's see this. Oh yeah, so you mean like this thing, right? Like where's the sound of it? True. Nice touch with Pen in the Footsteps. Sean. Absolutely. Nice touch. This piece is like, it's pretty good, you know? But I'm seeing things that are missing all over the place. Or things that I feel like could be larger or just more fleshed out. Like that door closed felt pretty good, but then afterwards, it's kind of gone. Like this happens. It's like kutuk, kutuk. Like if you listen to it and close your eyes, it sounds like someone like opening a car door or something. It's like not that big a thing, and there's like sparks flying out. I assume this is like locking or something. Is that what's happening? System. I can't see what it says, but I assume this is like locking this door for good or something. So something would be like from inside that door and the sparks flying out. It doesn't really feel like it's entirely appropriate. So I was surprised because this opening shot was like really good with the walking and the ambience and this slide down and the lock and so forth. It's all very fleshed out. And then it was just like total letdown. So I think just in general, I would challenge you to like look at, pull your ambience down and then don't lean on it so hard, because right now the ambience is like, it's ambience, and then what happens is it's very easy to kind of lean on that as, oh, my soundscape is filled out, and it's not. It's just like it's an overwhelming like rumble, but you could like, oh, you could change it with the door closing too. That's an idea too. It's just like, it's huge. It's low interest is what Matt says, and he's absolutely right. There's not much happening. Loud ambience, like for example, the ambience we have in like Darkest Dungeon, in the Warrens, it's like where all the mutant pig creatures and stuff are. when it gets pitch black, there's like pigs squealing and like screaming at you all the time, and we get like a lot of good feedback from that. But it's like loud ambience for a purpose, and it's only sometimes. It's like when we're trying to stress the player out, you know. So, anyways, I won't watch the whole thing, but that's my general impression. Choose your loud ambience moments carefully. So distinction, it's like pretty good, man. You know, it's not like amazing. The redesign's okay. The redesign's like good. It's good. It's not great. It's not bad. It's probably above average, but it's not amazing. The portfolio stuff, and just the overall presentation, again, just kind of tighten it up a bit and make this look better in general, like as far as format it in one piece. And then other than that, like you have that Fmod Unity thing in there. You've got enough here that it's clear you're serious. And for that reason, I'd be interested to see, for example, if you hit me up, if you applied to Power Up Audio, for example, if we were hiring, and I saw your stuff, I'd be like, okay, cool. And if you email me again in like 6 months, I would remember who you were, and probably check up on you. You know, so I'd want to know kind of where you're going, because you have shipped things and you are doing some pretty mature things here and there, but not overall. So I kind of assume that you've got a pretty good aptitude for growth and learning and such. So yeah, so I mean, keep at it. Basically, I mean, this looks really super promising, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next. You know, all right, thanks a lot. So on to Timur. I'm going to say Timur.